This is a Hellengold story, where truth meets healing, and every scar becomes strength. The soft clinking of cutlery echoed through the quiet dining room, filling the silence between Maren and her husband, Elric. They had been married for 6 years, but tonight something felt wrong. Maren stared at Elric from across the table, searching his face for warmth, for the man she had once loved deeply. But Elric didn't meet her gaze. He kept his eyes on his plate, shoveling pasta into his mouth like he was in a hurry to be done. Maren's eyes drifted to the glowing screen of his phone, lying right beside his plate. A message notification blinked, innocent to anyone else, but to Maren, it pulsed with suspicion. Against her better judgment, she leaned over and tapped in his passcode, one she had memorized without meaning to. Elric didn't even flinch. He was too wrapped in his meal. The screen unlocked, and the message opened with a simple swipe. The words hit Maren like a slap. "Can't wait to feel you inside me again. Meet at our place in an hour. Jessa." She blinked, rereading it in disbelief. Her breath caught in her throat as the truth burrowed into her heart like tiny shards of glass. So that was it. That explained everything. His late nights, the sudden distance, the wandering looks. "Everything okay, honey?" Elric's voice was calm, too calm, snapping her back into the moment. She didn't respond. Instead, she slid his phone across the table to him, her hands shaking. His eyes widened when he saw what she had done. Panic flashed across his face, and for the first time, Maren saw past the mask he had worn so well. "Maren, I can explain," Elric said quickly, setting his fork down. His voice trembled, but it was too late. She raised a hand, silencing him. "Don't bother," she said, her tone sharp and low. "Just tell me one thing. How long has this been going on?" Elric hesitated. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. His shoulders slumped as the weight of guilt pulled him down. 6 months, he finally admitted. Maren felt the breath leave her body. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of smiling at him every morning while he sneaked around behind her back. Her voice cracked. "Who is she?" Though she already knew the name from the message. "Jessa," he said. "She's an interior designer. She worked on that project at my office." Elric let out a bitter chuckle, as if amused by his own confession. "She made me feel things I hadn't felt in years," he added. The words were cruel, slicing through Maren's chest. Rage bubbled under her skin, but she kept her expression still. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. Slowly, she stood, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Elric asked, his voice catching. She paused, her back still to him. "Out," she replied. "And when I come back, you'd better be gone. Because I don't even know who you are anymore." With that, she opened the door and stepped out into the night, leaving the pieces of her broken marriage behind her. Maren didn't sleep that night. She booked a room at a nearby hotel and stared at the ceiling for hours, the silence pressing on her chest. Her mind replayed the moment over and over again, Elric's face, the message, the way her world collapsed in a single second. By morning, she had made a decision. She wouldn't cry anymore. She wouldn't just walk away and leave everything behind. She wanted answers. And justice. A friend of hers had once gone through a messy divorce and mentioned a private investigator. Maren found the number, dialed it with shaking fingers, and told him everything. Within a day, the investigator delivered a thick folder filled with evidence. Photos. Receipts. Emails. What Maren found inside made her sick. Elric hadn't just cheated with Jessa. There were others. Hotel visits with different women, credit card charges at expensive restaurants, even gifts. And it had all gone on for more than a year. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Clare," the investigator said as he placed the file on her kitchen table. "Your husband has been active." Maren stared at the proof, her hands trembling. "I want to know everything about Jessa," she said firmly. "Where she lives. Where she works. Everything." 2 days later, Maren found herself outside a sleek apartment building in an upscale part of town. She never would have imagined Elric could afford such a place, until she remembered the shared bank account and how money had been disappearing. The investigator had found a way to get her the door code. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stepped into the lobby. She didn't even know what she was planning to do, only that she needed to look this woman in the eye. The one who had taken so much from her. To Marin's surprise, the door to Jessa's apartment was unlocked. "Hello," a voice called from the back room. "Is that you, Elric?" It was smooth, sweet, and laced with arrogance. Marin clenched her fists. Then Jessa stepped into the living room, wearing nothing but a silk robe that barely covered her. She froze at the sight of Marin. "You," Marin growled. "You're the one who destroyed my marriage." Jessa didn't look guilty. She smirked, one eyebrow rising. "If it isn't Mrs. Clare," she said. "I was wondering when you'd show up. You had to see what a real woman looks like, huh?" Marin's rage exploded. Without thinking, she stepped forward and slapped Jessa hard across the face. The sound echoed through the room. Jessa gasped, stumbling back and clutching her cheek. "You're going to regret that," she hissed. "Wait until Elric hears about this." "He's leaving me for you, isn't he?" Marin shot back, stepping closer. "Let me tell you something, you spoiled little parasite. He's broke. He's been using our money to pay for this place, your clothes, your little vacations. He doesn't have anything left." Jessa's face flickered with something, fear, maybe, but then she recovered. "This isn't over," she spat. Marin left the apartment, her hands still shaking, her fury not even close to spent. She drove home in silence, her thoughts racing. When she walked in, Elric was already there. He had moved his things into the guest room. "Marin, what's going on?" he asked, startled by her wild eyes and tight jaw. She didn't answer. Instead, she threw the folder of evidence at him. Photos spilled out across the floor. He knelt down, his face going pale as he saw himself in each one. "Multiple affairs," Marin said slowly, her voice as sharp as broken glass. "And that's just the start." She held up another stack of papers. "You've been moving money," she hissed. "From our accounts. To pay for those women. That apartment. Our money, Elric." His face twisted with something between anger and shame. He stood up tall, his chest puffed. "Don't take that tone." Something between anger and shame. He stood up tall, his chest puffed. "Don't take that tone with me," he snapped. "You think this is all my fault? Our marriage was dead, Marin. We were miserable. I was just looking for a little happiness." Marin stared at him in disbelief. "With Jessa? That shallow, greedy child? She's not in love with you, Elric. She's bleeding you dry." Elric's eyes flickered with uncertainty. But then he stiffened again. "I want a divorce," he said coldly. "I've already called a lawyer. I'm done living with someone who treats me like I'm worthless." Marin recoiled like she'd been hit. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Elric picked up a bag and walked out without another word, without even looking back. She collapsed onto the floor, her tears silent at first, then uncontrollable. The pain felt like it was tearing her from the inside out. Her world had crumbled, and the man she loved was just gone. But as she sobbed into the quiet, something caught her eye, a small folder peeking out from beneath the pile of evidence. She pulled it out and saw a familiar piece of paper, the deed to their home. And it was in her name alone. Her father had insisted on it years ago, just in case. At the time, she'd thought he was just being overly cautious. But now, her father's wisdom gave her a strange kind of strength. She wasn't going to be left with nothing. Elric could take his lies, but he wouldn't take her future. Over the next few days, Marin barely slept. She pored over every piece of evidence, the rage keeping her going. She made an appointment with a top lawyer named Selma Grant, known for being tough and unstoppable in court. Selma flipped through the documents with raised eyebrows. "Good heavens," she muttered. "I've seen a lot of cheating husbands, but yours is something special." "Can you help me?" Marin asked quietly. "I don't just want a divorce. I want him to feel everything I felt." Selma smiled. "With this kind of proof. Oh, he's going to wish he'd never met her." They began working immediately. Selma built a plan to freeze Elric's hidden accounts, file for alimony, and hit him with every charge his actions allowed. "We can also go after Jessa," Selma said, tapping a photo. If we can prove she knowingly used him for financial gain, she's fair game too. Maren nodded. Good. She deserves everything that's coming. The betrayal had burned a hole through her heart, but now, something else began to fill that space. Not hate, but purpose. She wouldn't just survive. She would rise. While Elric kept quiet, likely hiding out and dreaming of a new life with Jessa, Maren and Selma moved forward with quiet determination. Maren's private investigator kept digging and came back with an unexpected twist. Turns out your husband's new girlfriend gets around, he said over the phone. Maren froze. What do you mean? The investigator's voice was serious. She's also seeing someone else. An older businessman. Wealthy. Married. I've got photos and everything. A fresh spark of anger flared in Maren's chest. Find out who he is, she said. And find out who his wife is. The businessman's name was Patrick Renshaw. He owned a chain of luxury hotels and was well known in high society. His wife, Clarice, was a powerful woman in her own right, wealthy, proud, and extremely private. The moment Maren saw the photos of Jessa kissing Patrick outside his penthouse, she knew what she had to do. This isn't just about me anymore, she told Selma. It's about every woman who's ever had her life torn apart by someone like her. Selma grinned. Then let's make sure she never forgets this lesson. The plan was simple, but bold. The annual Rosebridge Gala was just around the corner. A black tie event where all of the city's wealthiest would gather, including Elric and Jessa, still pretending to be a golden couple. Selma arranged for Maren to attend as a donor. And just before the event, they sent an anonymous envelope to Clarice Renshaw. Inside was a full report, photos, times, locations, all of Jessa's meetings with her husband. Maren didn't know how Clarice would react. But she was about to find out. The ballroom was glowing with chandeliers and the hum of champagne-fueled chatter. Maren stepped inside, wearing a simple black gown and a diamond necklace her mother had left her. She looked every bit the strong, dignified woman she had become. Elric spotted her from across the room and stiffened. Jessa, wrapped in red silk and clinging to his arm, looked smug. But not for long. Because soon the whispers began. One by one, phones lit up. People leaned in. They gasped, murmured, pointed. And then, Clarice Renshaw arrived. Clarice walked straight toward Jessa, fury etched in every line of her face. You little snake, she growled, grabbing a fistful of Jessa's glossy hair. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Jessa shrieked, stumbling backward as Clarice yanked her forward. The crowd turned to watch as the confrontation unfolded. This woman's been sleeping with my husband. Clarice shouted. And using other men's money to do it. Gasps rippled through the room. Jessa's face turned pale. Her glamorous mask had finally slipped. Elric stood frozen, speechless as his mistress was humiliated in front of everyone they knew. Jessa tried to run, but Clarice wasn't finished. She slapped her across the face before security stepped in. Maren watched it all from a corner of the room. When Elric's eyes finally found hers, she didn't look away. She simply mouthed, "You did this to yourself." He lowered his gaze, shame washing over him like a flood. The crowd around him parted as he turned and left, alone. The days that followed were full of headlines. Socialite exposes mistress at gala, they read. Elric's company dropped him quietly. Jessa disappeared from the city, her reputation in ashes. Maren, on the other hand, was being called a hero. Women reached out with messages of support and admiration. Her strength had become their inspiration. But Maren didn't do it for the fame. She did it for herself, for the woman who once cried alone in a hotel room, betrayed and broken. That woman was gone now. 6 months later, the divorce was final. Maren kept the house, the car, and the savings Elric hadn't been able to hide. The settlement left him with very little, and legally barred him from contacting her. She didn't miss him. Not even a little. She had no room for regret. Only freedom. Her lawyer, Selma, called one afternoon and said, "Congratulations, Maren. You did it. You ended it on your own terms." Maren smiled. "No," she said softly. "I began something new." To mark her new beginning, Marin launched a small foundation using part of her settlement money. It was called Marin's Rise, and it helped women who were escaping betrayal and rebuilding their lives. She started small, just a few support groups, some legal help, and therapy services. But the idea grew. Word spread. Donations came in. Women from all over began writing her letters. Some even showed up at her door, thanking her. It was the first time in a long time that Marin felt proud of who she was. One night, she hosted her own gala, smaller, but warmer. Held in the same hotel where her enemies once fell, this time it was filled with love and resilience. She wore a deep green gown and stood on stage as she gave her speech. "We rise from pain," she told the crowd. "We do not let it break us. We turn it into power. I am living proof." The applause was loud and honest. For the first time, Marin didn't feel like a victim or a fighter. She just felt free. After the speech, guests mingled and congratulated her. And then she noticed a man in the crowd, tall, confident, with kind hazel eyes. He smiled and stepped forward. "Mrs. Clare," he said with a slight British accent, "I just wanted to say, your story moved me. You've turned something dark into something remarkable." Marin tilted her head. "Thank you. And you are?" "Galen Reed," he replied, offering a hand. "I'm a journalist. And a friend of Patrick Renshaw." "Well, former friend." Marin raised a brow, amused. "Former. Let's just say I don't support men who cheat on their wives," Galen said with a charming grin. "And I definitely support women who take their lives back." His eyes sparkled with something genuine. Something warm. Marin found herself smiling. "Well, Mr. Reed," she said, shaking his hand. "If you'd like to hear more of the story, maybe over coffee?" Galen didn't hesitate. "It would be my honor." They smiled at each other, two people both familiar with scars, but not afraid of the future. The next morning, Marin woke up with something she hadn't felt in a long time, peace. She walked through the quiet halls of her home, sunlight streaming in through the windows. Her house no longer felt like a battleground. It felt like hers. Every photo on the wall, every piece of furniture, every quiet moment belonged to her now. She sat by the window with her coffee and watched the morning begin. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was hers. And she had fought for every part of it. Later that week, Galen sent her a draft of the article he'd written about her journey. It was powerful and thoughtful, and it ended with these words: "Some women survive. Others rise." Marin Clare did both, and built a path for others to follow. She read the line 3 times before tears filled her eyes. Not from sadness. From pride. From truth. She wrote back, "Thank you. You saw me clearly. That means more than you know." He replied, "Then let me keep seeing you. One day at a time." Marin folded his message and placed it in a drawer next to her bed. Not because she was clinging to it, but because it reminded her of something important. That even after being torn down, even after losing everything, new beginnings were still possible. Life could still be beautiful. She had found her voice again. She had found herself. And no one, not Elric, not Jessa, not the pain they caused, could ever take that away. Marin Clare had burned to the ground. But she had risen, fiercer than before. And now, she was finally free.